Greetings, salutations, and welcome to the KriegerCast. I'm your host, Patrick Krieger, and today I am taking you on a tour of Rogers Gardens at Christmas time. As you can see, this little grape plant is already changing color. Now, one of the things you might not know about Rogers Gardens is that they have an outdoor restaurant. However, it is not entirely outdoor. There is this wonderful little gazebo as well as a covered patio. However, the elements do kind of tend to get to you. If it's a cold day, it's a cold day outside. So they have these blankets for you as well as space heaters, and they will do the job of keeping you warm while you wait for your food. Now let's talk about that food. That food is amazing. They have a very limited menu, but everything on it is absolutely delightful. I personally think they have the best cod anywhere in the world. It's panko crusted, and it is just buttery and delicious. And if you happen to find yourself at Rogers Gardens and you do enjoy yourself a good piece of fish, it's definitely worth a try. Now, they had these wonderful little biodegradable straws that were by far the best plastic substitute straws I've ever seen. And of course, like many restaurants, they serve their little bread before the main course, but they serve it in little flower pots because they're a garden, and I just thought that was absolutely adorable. Since it's a chilly day, I decided to have a cup of chili. You can see it steaming away there because it was kind of on the cool side. And this chili was incredibly flavorful without being spicy, and that is a fine line for a chili to walk, and it walked it very well. This is the cod that I told you about. It is crispy and golden and buttery and delicious. However, I did make a slight change to it. It is typically served on a bed of rice that incorporates pine nuts. I'm not a fan of pine nuts. I find they taste a little waxy, so I had them served over mashed potatoes. And the butteriness of the cod, along with the butteriness of the mashed potatoes, was just absolutely fantastic. And it would be a change I would recommend for you too. Now, there was small portions, and the desserts are small, so we decided why not get a dessert. I particularly like the toasted almond cake, but if cake isn't your style, the pot de creme is worth a try too. This is that pot de creme. It's served with a lavender lemon scone, which I gave to my father as I do not like lemon, and the actual creme is much like a creme brulee, however it is without the topping, and that's the way I actually prefer it. Their lattes are fantastic, however, they're a little strong for my liking, so I asked for some milk on the side. That's nothing on their ability to make a latte, and everything on my ability to not enjoy a strong latte. This is how they give you the bill. It's in this photo album of plants that people draw in, so there's that. I thought it was kind of neat. Throughout Rogers Gardens, there's statuary that you can purchase. I wanted to make sure I incorporated as much of the statuary as possible, so you'll be seeing that throughout the film, and I just thought you should see them. Now, if you go around Southern California, you might notice a lot of these statues cropping up in people's back and front yards, and a lot of it does come from Rogers Gardens. They are a working nursery. You can get your plants here. However, it is Christmas time, and I don't know why I never thought of this. I always come for the Christmas ornaments, but Rogers Gardens has Christmas trees available as well. I thought this little guide as to picking a Christmas tree was fantastic, and it reminded me a lot of the video I did with Rivers. See, they call the Norman fir there as opposed to the Turkish fir, and I just thought that was kind of neat. Now, here are those Christmas trees that Rivers was talking about that were thin and sparse and would be hard to hang lights on. And you can definitely agree with him there that it would be hard to hide the cables. But they are bold and striking and definitely would do a good job at showing off ornaments. So maybe he's right that this will be the next up-and-coming thing. However, there were quite a few of them left on the lot this late in the season. Now, Rogers Gardens claims they had 2 designer Christmas trees. One of them was called the Rogers Blue, and I thought that was kind of funny, naming it Rogers. But who am I to judge? I call everything Krieger something, so, you have that. However, they had these adorable little pre-lit Christmas trees from Washington, and I'm not quite sure why they were bragging about them being from Washington. But, take what you get. I thought they were adorable, though, with these strings of lights running through them. They'd probably be gorgeous on a front patio or some such. Now, this was the only nativity scene I saw at the place. There may have been more, but I just didn't notice them. And I almost didn't notice this one. They had a custom wreath center, which I thought was really interesting. And if you noticed, they have a bay leaf wreath, which I just think is a fun alliteration. So if you need a custom wreath, they're probably a place to go. However, we're here for the Christmas boutique. with all their beautiful ornaments and lovely things. So let's dive into that. It's spread out over 2 buildings. One of them is a little side building that typically holds their houseplants, and one of them is closer to the main office sort of area. The building that typically contains the houseplants still did, and I'll just kind of show you in a moment how empty it was, which was really nice going there this time of year and having it be so empty. Note these interesting little statue heads. I don't know why I needed to film them, but I did. I thought it was kind of eerie how many of them there were. And you see that little turtle riding on that other turtle's back? Yeah, I picked that little guy up. I thought he was cute, so I had to buy him. I also found this turtle with this little derpy shell, and I picked him up too. I don't know why I need 2 rock turtles, but apparently I need 2 rock turtles. So here's a little clip to show you kind of how empty it was. There's a few people milling about, but, there weren't too many. Everybody was at the restaurant. The restaurant was absolutely packed when we left, and so we got to enjoy all the Christmas decorations and the sale without anyone really kind of peeking over our shoulder, and that was really pleasant. Although right when we left, there was a rush to the cash register, which was unfortunate, but hey, if it's a good place, it's going to be full. One of the interesting things about this whole situation is that they're really color coordinated. So if the color is a really big deal to you, you'll notice that throughout Rogers Gardens, all the Christmas decorations are basically broken down by theme and color. You have your whites, you have your reds, you have all these different things. Now, this is my favorite statue at Rogers. It's supposed to be the nymph of fall or the harvest, but I always call her the goddess of the grains. And I did pick up this awkward little plant pot here, because I thought it was kind of cool that it's statuary-esque. See, there are just these statues all over. The grape harvest woman, as well as just look at all these orchids. They have a fantastic selection of plants. Now, these balls of plants reminded me a lot of my time at my college. We had a massive one of these things that was actually held up by chain that was like 3.5 feet across. And so seeing these little ones kind of reminded me of that, and I had to incorporate them into this film. Now, they say a better poinsettia. My school also grew poinsettias to sell, and I'm not really sure what they're talking about when it comes to a better one. Yes, you can have a healthier one that is stronger and lasts longer, and maybe that's what they're talking about, but I don't know of any particular breed that is better, but there are some absolutely lovely colors that are coming out. I just needed to incorporate these little tiny flames. I thought the way they danced was funny. They don't look real at all, but they definitely look cute. Maybe it goes on just slightly too long. One of the things that I think is interesting about Rogers Gardens is they have these outdoor trains. And you may notice this little guy here struggle and then break itself free. They are running outdoors, and I do wonder if they run outdoors, 24 hours a day. Probably not. Or at least, do they run in the rain? I'm kind of curious about that too. They are garden scale, so maybe they could. But I've only ever seen them running in the daytime. They did have a whole bunch of pre-lit plastic trees, if that is your style. And I think they had a fantastic selection of those. So if you're in the need for one of those, these are definitely a bit of a step beyond what you can get at, say, a Home Depot or a Lowe's. But now we're on to the main event, the main hall of ornaments. Each tree is decorated with a different theme, this one being angels, but there's also like shells and sea and travel and America and space shuttles and, weddings. So each one is kind of themed, and I think that's cool. They have a lot of unusual stuff, like the steampunk clock, so if you're looking at stuff for a study, they're probably a pretty good place to go, but, maybe that's missing the point. I thought it was also pretty neat how they included these tiny little pastry ornaments on pastry trays. Seriously, whoever thought of that was pretty smart. Now, these are supposed to be like hollow chocolate molds, but I don't think they actually work. I think they're just for the looks. And I thought this juxtaposition of a gorgeous Christmas tree with these creepy face mugs was hilarious. Particularly the one coming up right now. Look at that thing. It looks like a dead baby, for lack of a better term, and it kind of freaks me out. Now, they have these fantastic little woodcuts that are really popular in Germany that, are these little motion, like Ferris wheel sort of things. You see there's these little candles, you light them, and then the heat rises and turns these little propellers, and there's motion in the scene. That's kind of neat. They also have a ton of high-end ornaments, so you could spend a lot on an ornament. I actually couldn't find prices on them. They just said see manager. But they're hand blown in Poland and they're hand painted, so I'm sure they're expensive. I did, however, come home with a box of tea, this brain booster, because it's Japanese matcha with currant. I don't know why that's a thing, but I'm going to give it a try. I thought they had a nice variety of Santas. It was red, green, gold, white, a whole smattering of them. And this was a animal themed tree. They just really have a lot of cool little glass ornaments. They had a Rogers Gardens ornament, which, as you say, says made in Germany, but they were rather inexpensive, about $9, which, if you're going to put someone else's advertisement on your Christmas tree, you hope it's rather cheap. Well, anyway, I leave you with this adorable little turtle under a hat. Until next time, dear listener, see you out there.